mono mwanju muri on Ndizi TV andonsia sobere da ne chinga kichinde chabene chingia tokonyana nanda sembeo anekeroroja se TV yao na bokorana rero ntubatabageni kurwase tutebense ya maiko ekeroroje abakorana bona ntubatabageni ase studio kero cyaragire jinse se tujabona mamto yokwana mange aneka tujokwana igoro ya international relations katujokwana mange na barabu gona iri bare kwarigania na araja kiro muntu beke Gusii ndora mayambagani kito na barabu ase studio ase mambi yaboniga karongo kwarigania senjera ya bene kabisa obena into ikomwe na bokwenda gutuma liboli ya ugwethira sinambe ya seskini ya urabu otobo ubabo liboli nerionsi aneka twakwaniri tukwandigoro yo bwamate bwa relations with the international relations sekado kwandegoro yo bwa matobu gati ya barabu institute ya Kenya Gusii University ya Kenya ndo yo kwanda mange igoro ya barabu ikase studio ibana kubolyo bana into ikomwe nyora nabo kwanda gutubwati sense moyo mitandao Facebook tonyora Ndizi TV News digital boy sense moyo ya YouTube nabo tonyora Ndizi TV News so kunyora chinga kina boto tweet at Ndizi TV News igo genda gutoma uchumbe yawe terase chi platform gina otebiri kwende nambe yere gorabu nabo gutoma uchumbe yawo igo tobe naye go ikomwe litanga taitokora bali baga para menyekani go chasore kiagera ora manyam private I've been speaking foreign language so that I welcome our viewers so that they can understand whom we are with them in the studio. So the first thing we can do, I would like you to do introduction so that they can be aware whom we are with them in the studio. You can start from my far left.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
My name is Meredith Mcquid, and I am the Associate Vice President and Dean for International Programs at the University of Minnesota, which is located in Minnesota in the United States. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. What about you?
Oh, thank you. I am Bev Durgan. I am Dean of Extension at the University of Minnesota in Minnesota, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Igo majumuri kwa igo na rani gotoka nabageni kurwa senseli ya US, United States of America, ekarwa kurwa University ya Minnesota. Ekaro kwa University ya Minnesota gwe na mangana ya academic ya mangana mange igoro yechisemi. Omajo to devina na kibara sensi itu ya Kenya na kibachira sigeza seni yeto kya Ndizi TV. Now you can tell us how is Kenya, because you have visited Kenya before you come to Ndizi TV. How is Kenya? How is the journey in Kenya?
Well, that's a great question. It's a hard question because there are many adjectives to use to describe Kenya. This is my third time here, and I learn more about the region and the Kisii people and the strengths of this area every time I come. It's beautiful. I think the best part about Kenya are the people, really. They're wonderful. So.
That's pressure. What about you? How is Kenya? You describe about food, about weather when you compare in Minnesota.
Yeah. So Kenya is great. This is also my third trip to the Kisii area, and you talked about weather. In Minnesota now, it is snowing, and snow is about this high, and it's very white. So it is very nice to be here, the weather, and as Meredith says, that it is a beautiful country, and we're just very thankful that you're very welcoming people. You're just embrace us, and we are just happy to be here.
Okay, thank you. What about Ndizi TV? Now we have just come to Ndizi TV. What about us? It's a few minutes that you have just arrived. How can you describe us in Ndizi TV now?
Oh, well, for those of you watching, you can only see us, but this is a beautiful place, and it's very sophisticated people. They've got all the equipment. They were very friendly and helpful and welcoming, so we're so happy to be here.
That's great. Even you can describe Ndizi TV now.
So you've made us feel very much at home and have helped us get ready for this program, and it's a beautiful studio, so we're happy to be here.
Okay, that's great. Now, viewers would like to know what's your mission when you have just come to Kenya. They need to know the mission that has led you to be in Kenya, even in this TV. The viewers want to know about your mission. You can start from you.
Well, our mission actually is with Kisii University. We formed a relationship with them in 2011, and we were prompted by a group called Mcquid, which is Minnesota Kenya International Development Association, which is a group of Kisii people, actually Kenyans, primarily Kisii, who live in Minnesota, and they encouraged us to get to know the local university and to see if we could develop some exchange programs, some research programs, and basically a partnership that would make both of our universities better. So we're back this time to just reconnect with our partners.
Something you can add about the mission that you are doing in Kenya?
Right, as Meredith said, we have started in 2011, and there are a number of Kenyans in Minnesota. About 10% of the Kenyan diaspora in the U.S. live in Minnesota. So, and the Kenyans in Minnesota want to give back to Kenya. So they very much encouraged us to have this relationship with Kisii University to really look at how we could help the university grow and also to help the University of Minnesota to be able to have opportunities to exchange, learn about the culture, learn new ways of teaching. And so it's really a relationship that benefits both of us, both universities.
What motivated you so that you can start that program in Kisii University or in local universities? What made you to start that program?
Well, actually, the University of Minnesota has a number of partnerships all over the world. Just a little background about the University of Minnesota. We are a very large public institution. We have more than 65,000 students across 5 campuses in the state. We believe it makes all of us better to have international partners. So we have relationships all over the world, and of course East Africa is a very important part of the world, and Kenya, as we've talked about, has a very strong ties with Minnesota. So Kisii University is now added to our portfolio of wonderful partners in education.
Thank you. How do Kenyan universities stand to benefit from the mentorship program, particularly when we say about Kisii University?
So in University of Minnesota and also in the U.S., we have universities called the land-grant universities, and the land-grant universities were developed to educate all in the state. So our mission is research, teaching, and extension. And so one of the reasons we have collaborated with with Kisii is to make sure that the research that is happening at Kisii University is used and to help solve problems directly in communities. So that's what we do with Extension in Minnesota. We take the research and work with communities on solving some of these big issues. So it's really about how do you have that exchange to make sure the university is also serving the whole region.
I think how significant is Kisii University in your engagement?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, as I mentioned, we have partners all over the world, but we don't have very many international partners that have been with us for 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, like Kisii University. And so we have a few, and those are among our most significant partners. And so Kisii ranks in there. It's a wonderful part of the world, of course, but we have actually a lot in common. Minnesota is a very agricultural state, and so we do a lot with agriculture. We have a business school, we have a law school, many of the similar programs that Kisii University offers. But again, it's a very different place than Minnesota, so we learn from each other, and so Kisii is probably one of our more significant partners.
Okay, thank you. How will the mentorship program work?
So the mentorship program works in a number of ways. One is directly with faculty, so faculty at the University of Minnesota and faculty at Kisii. And then it also works with talking to communities and what do communities need, what are some of the issues they're facing. And so then after we have that exchange, our faculty sit together and say, okay, what kind of programs, what do we need to develop, and can it serve Kisii, but also how can we use some of those things that we have learned at the University of Minnesota. So we want to make sure that both universities are benefiting from this work and that we continue to learn from one another.
That's great. How is this project being funded?
Oh, that's a great question. By both universities, actually.
Yes.
Yes, so the University of Minnesota has contributed faculty time, many books. We've worked with Books for Africa in providing more books to Kisii University. Travel back and forth. We fund our activity, and Kisii University funds their activity. We've had a number of faculty and students visit University of Minnesota from Kisii. So we each provide our own resources. And together, of course, we benefit in ways that's more than double the resources invested.
Thank you. Allow me to go to my foreign language so that I can engage viewers and then I come back.
Okay, that's fine. Yes.
Nene karabagani baito bara se studio korwasi University ya Minnesota bane to the bigoro imero babwate asi county to ya Kisii no na sense to ya Kenya ane karoba single out binambata ido konya roko universities ya senjera ya bene kabisa e karoba ndata kubeke mero binanga tubo jo konya University ya Kisii Kisii upartner na University ya Minnesota ilikubike miroberio kwene kibinango kini bade ebirengo via gisemi ebirengo via agriculture ebirengo binge mentorship nduchweka asansemo ya leadership. I'm telling them we are going to talk about you are still doing about mentorship, about leadership. We are going to talk about that one. Iko mwajumuri gendera kutobwatia sinjira bene kroto na barabu Kurwasi University ya Minnesota. Marieta bona makongwara ke lakini nditigana ndanya ligeli yake Marieta bo na arega bu mwajumuri Kurwasi University ya Minnesota. Oyomo Dr. Bev nigale Dean of the University of Minnesota ekeroyo ndale Vice President of the International Program. We are talking about Kisii University. How ready is Kisii University according to your assessment that they are ready to partner with Minnesota University? You can start with Madam Doctor.
They are more than ready to partner with us. As I mentioned, when we first came here in 2011, you know, with the encouragement of the Kenyans settled in Minnesota, we didn't know what to expect. Many of us had been to Kenya many times, but we hadn't been to this area. And so what we found were very sophisticated, well-educated, well-intentioned people that were seeking more international partners because it was at that time they were becoming a full-fledged university. And so we entered into this agreement, and what we've learned is the faculty are extremely well trained. The law school now, as I understand it, is rated #1 in all of East Africa. We also have a very good law school at Minnesota. And so there are a number of programs that we've learned about that are every bit as good as we have at the University of Minnesota. And so our partnership is very reciprocal, mutually beneficial. And we were just delighted to find out that this small university, compared to the University of Minnesota, had so much happening and so much potential to become even better.
What can you mention about the leadership of Kisii University? How reception? We have the Vice Chancellor, Akama. What about the leadership of the university and which needs to collaborate with you?
Yes, so the Vice Chancellor has been very supportive of this program. In fact, he has really helped to support it and encourage faculty to be part of it. And I think the faculty, as Meredith said, are very ready to be part of the community. You know, when you have a research university in a community, you need to make sure that that research is serving the community. So now that they're teaching in research, the next thing is to make sure that they're part of the community and part of solving some of these big issues that Kenya is facing.
Now, when we go, let me ask you, there's another question that somebody has told me to welcome you to home of banana over Matoke. Somebody, our viewer was Joshua Mokaya said, welcome Festus to home of Matoke. Najua Kisii is known better for Matoke and Soapstone.
Yes.
Yeah, how have you encountered any success and some failures with these programs that you have initiated in Kisii?
I think for success, maybe you could talk about your leadership, the women farmers.
Right. So one of the programs that we have established, and we have received some USAID money to support it, is to work with local women farmers on a leadership program, but also in a way for them to work together around marketing their vegetables. So it's one thing to be able to grow vegetables, but the next step is to be able to market them. And so this work has been with 210 female farmers. It was a 2-year program where we really encouraged the farmers to work together, to be thinking about how do you collaborate, bring the resources together and market them. And in 3 years ago, right before COVID, we had a graduation. 210 women attended the graduation and talked about how this training really helped them think about the next step and how they can increase their profits, but also to work together to be thinking about how you market the product. So it's been a very successful program, and it's a model that we use in the U.S. around bringing groups together to think about issues that they have. And so this model worked very good in Kenya, and I think that this is one that we're going to build on our successes with.
Thank you. In an institution, we have a staff and a student. Which are some areas considered for students and the staff for your exchange program?
Those are really the next wave of engagement. We do need to figure out a way. We would love to get University of Minnesota students here to the Kisii region because, first of all, it's a beautiful place, and because there's a relationship to our state. But probably most important is the experience they would have in interacting with Kisii people here. And so we do need to do that as difficult as it can be. We have different calendars, we have different cost structures, so it's hard to get student mobility happening on a regular basis, but that will be the next wave of what we explore. And in terms of staff, we're already exchanging staff. At the University of Minnesota, there are faculty level and then staff level that do lectures, that do develop programs, that deliver programs, is similarly to the University of Kisii University. And so we need those groups to interact as well. So that's sort of the next time I come, I'll be able to tell you about that.
Thank you. Can we say that we are going to have some students from Kisii University who are going to study in Minnesota and some staff who are going to do some programs in Minnesota?
Right. So as Meredith said that we have to overcome calendar issues and academic issues. But one thing that we do at the University of Minnesota is to have exchanges for shorter periods of time. So have students from Minnesota come over for a month and maybe work on a project, develop a project together, and then bring a group of Kisii students over to the U.S. for a month. So that is a way for them to kind of get to know the place and to have them think about then applying to be a full-time student. So these limited type of exchanges really help the students to get to know what each country is like, and it gets them to be much more enthusiastic to come full-time.
Thank you. Doctor, in the same note, Kenya is a third world country and the US is a developed country. What are some of the ideas students or staff from the developed world learn from Kisii University?
Sorry, what are some of the things that our students can learn from being here? Well, I would say one of the best impressions I have of this region is honestly how open and welcoming people are. And I think for American students to come here and feel that, to be completely welcomed, to be at home, and to be encouraged to join in meals, to go sightseeing together. I think that would really be something a little new for Minnesota students. We have just a different way of life, different attitudes. We're a little harder to get to know, but it's hard not to get to know people here in Kisii because people are so friendly. So I think that's probably the best. I mean, there's many things. They could learn Kiswahili, they could learn the Kisii language, they could learn how to eat ugali. Yes. But there's many, many, many benefits for our students to come here.
Thank you. Do you have something to add?
Right. So I think that we're all facing some of the same big issues. One is around adapting to climate. And so in the U.S., we're thinking about, how do we adapt to climate that's changing? And the same thing is happening here in Kisii around water use and how water can be used. So I think our American students coming to another country to see that climate is affecting all of us and that we all need to be thinking about how we adapt to it. So I think they'll learn too that Kisii, is doing some unique things. Minnesota is doing some unique things, and how can you apply both of them to both countries?
Okay, I've seen that our viewers are sending some messages. I want to read them. Abantu bari enda go to match SMS china sinjira ya bene kapsa ninchiro chango chisomana sinjira bene mabori endo ndoje na nyaro dire asinjira ya bene ninyaroche ngonya somande kunde turagendera kenda gutuma na rodira bande batumire gaiga tigatugenda aka sinjira ya bene. You said that you are doing some sourcing of markets. Now there's a question: how would sourcing markets benefit college students, mostly in Kisii University, while they are not doing, they are not producing some products? We can start.
Actually, Bev knows much more about that than I do.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
So, one thing that I've seen here in Kisii, and I've also seen in the U.S., is that our farmers are very good at growing crops. They can grow crops, they've adapted. But one thing that they're not really good at is marketing. How do you get those crops to a market? How do you follow food safety rules? And so that is really where the students can learn, is that they know about this market chain and the supply chain, and how do you then get that product from the farm to a wholesaler and then to the people. And that is where our students are just wonderful around that. They think creatively, and they really then take that, the farmer then can produce the food and then hand it off to the students as they go to the next step.
I think you can add something on top of that.
Well, I think the issue is, as Bev says, it's working with people in the community, whether it's farmers or people who are opening a new business, for example, new entrepreneurship. And they have the idea, they have the skills, but they don't know how to do a website. You know, they don't know about social media, they don't know how to do a TikTok video. And so what the students can really provide a huge advantage with their technical background, their attitudes, their fresh look at the world, and it can be done in all fields, really. Bev happens to know agriculture extremely well and leadership, but we can really do it in a lot of ways, and students provide that energy and that enthusiasm, and of course, the knowledge.
Yes, we have mentorship and leadership program, which you are initiating to be in Kisii University. Now somebody is asking, will mentorship and leadership will require funds for training? Who will meet the expenses, and what is the criteria of selecting some beneficiaries of the same program? Consulting.
So, you know, money is always an issue, but if you have a good program, you can find the money. And as we said, University of Minnesota is very interested in providing funding, so is Kisii University. And we also have plans to look for outside funding, so whether it's private industry or to the government. And so, you know, we don't want to make funding the main issue. We know we need to have funding, but sometimes some of these programs don't cost a lot. You know, you're not buying a lot of supplies. It's just basically being able to meet with people and develop these programs. So I think if you have a good program and it's one that people really want, you can find the resources to do it.
Thank you. As a mentor, what motivation do you get in your daily program that drives you so that you can mentor others?
Oh, mentoring is always fun. I think the best part about mentoring is, particularly when you have someone who wants to be mentored, is the exchange. Again, the fact that I may know more about something because I've been around longer and because I have more experience doesn't mean that a younger person doesn't have things I can learn. And so there really is a two-way street, and it can just be a lot of fun. You get to know more than just the topic. You get to know a lot about the students. We have students from all over the world at the University of Minnesota, and to interact with them and learn more about attitudes, perspectives, experience really benefits the mentor as much as it benefits the mentee.
And then I saw about you are giving books to universities and other institutions. Tell us how you intend to learn the books program, maybe in Kisii University or other local universities in Kenya. You can start with.
Do you want to do Books for Africa?
Yeah. So in Minnesota, there is an organization called Books for Africa, and their main goal is to provide books throughout Africa and books from, you know, for grade schools all the way up to universities. And so they receive books from donors, will give books, universities will give books, and also publishers. And what they do then is that once they have a full shipping crate, that they bring the books to Africa, and it is free to universities and to schools. And so Meredith, I think that you may know Meredith is works in the law school at the University of Minnesota, and she was very instrumental in bringing some of the first law books over to Kisii University when they started their law school. So this is a very active group in Minnesota, and actually on their board of directors is a person from Kisii. So she is she's very active and is very outspoken to make sure that books come to the Kisii area too, as well as the whole part of Africa.
That's great. Let us engage some of our viewers so that they can get better that we are with them. I'm Stephen Mcquid from Kenya in Bokimonge. Bokimonge is one of the wards in Kisii County. Yeah. I need to know how they may help us to go for work in their country, even in Minnesota, America. I'm interested with them.
That's a good question too. Yesterday we met with some people talking about how to inform Kenyan students about how to enter universities in the United States, because the concept, the way we've structured higher ed in the United States is, first of all, it's very complicated, and secondly, it's very different from Kenya. And so we talked about doing webinars that students could just access, nobody has to travel anywhere, to explore that application process. How do you choose a university? What kind of an essay do you need? What kind of test scores do you need? And to help them get ready to apply. But the same could be true for how to find jobs. Many of our international students studying at the University of Minnesota hope to land a job when they graduate. And if the Kenyan students are far-sighted enough to think not only about how to get in to the university, but what to do when they come out, we can provide that information as well. We part of higher ed in the United States is helping students find jobs, career development, their first job, how do you interview, and we can just share that knowledge with the students at Kisii University, actually any students in Kenya.
Okay, thank you. Something you can add on top of that?
Yes, so the University of Minnesota has a program called the MAST program, which is the Minnesota Agricultural Student Training Program, and that allows international students to come to Minnesota, and they are placed with a host family, and they can work on a farm, they can work in a nursery, they can work in landscaping, and so they stay and work at that farm, they get paid, and at the end of that program, they are able to take a semester classes at the University of Minnesota. And so they are learning that trade and then take classes, and then they are expected to come back to their home country, but it also gives them a way to learn about the university. So we have had so far 9 students from the Kisii region that have been through this MAST program. So this would be another way for students that are interested in the broader agricultural production to come to Minnesota and learn about the agriculture and learn some new skills. So that's one way that we could help Kenyans, Kisiis, to get to the U.S.
Thank you. I've seen Bauro Soro is saying that Brighton, well done. Is saying that welcome our visitors to Kenya. We are happy to meet you. Thank you. Jen Somo, I'm so happy to see you, Meredith. A wonderful discussion. Thank you. I've seen Charles Ruango Gato count me in. Kemi Sophie Motangi is saying that he's following us live. Jarsi Ruango Gato is saying that is with us. Dixon Yombogo, MC 2027, Kitu Central. Dixon Yombogo, I'm with you. Thank you for bringing the feast as well, telling us about Minnesota and the US. Thank you. A quick one here. I just finished my course, work in international relations and diplomacy from Kenyatta University. Can I continue with my research project from University of Minnesota? Thank you. That was Bob Clifford who is asking that question.
Sure. I mean, we'd love to have you at Minnesota. We have a very well-known, it's not very big, it's pretty small, but it's a very well-known school of public policy. And many of our students come for masters and PhDs at the Humphrey Institute of Public Affairs. We have many students from outside of America there, including Kenyans. And so if you want to take a look at the website, check out the International Relations Program. And then, of course, you can reach out to us and ask more questions. But I will say, our graduate school is very, very accessible, wonderful people. They're happy to answer questions. If you look into that program and you have questions about how to apply or what might be needed, you can reach out to the graduate school and they would be delighted to help you.
Thank you. I wish to ask the guests whether they have short programs where they sponsor youth and other professionals to attain skills in short term, either at Kisii University or Minnesota.
So right now we have not yet developed short-term programs, in-person programs. We do have a number of programs that are online that anybody can participate in. So if you haven't been to the University of Minnesota website, it's umn.edu, and you can learn about all the programs there, what Meredith just talked about, and also you could see many of the things that are offered from the University of Minnesota online, and many of those programs are, especially with an extension, which is extension.umn.edu. We have many programs that anybody can participate in, and they're free. So there's for most of them, there's no cost. So that will give them some ideas about what they may want to do if they want to come to the University of Minnesota, or just information that they may want as they're doing their studies here too. And also for any of our farmers or small business owners that are listening, that there's many things on our extension website too about business management. How do you develop a spreadsheet? How do you look at cash flow? And just how do you organize? So many of those things are on our website and they're totally free.
Thank you. I've seen Sweet 16, wonderful discussion. Thank you. Mwajumuri ganda utumaji SMS yao ganda kubuli bule katorna pake nikuruwa se NC America, United States of America, haria sense ma Minnesota karabanda to tevya igoro yemere mabata kete kubeka kati yabo ne University ya Kisii University go na kwariga ndi yoni ganda to kwariga ngo taina ganda gutuma libuli yao go cha studio asinjira ya ben I am Maxwell from Bomet University. I can see I can see doctors with greater work. Maxwell is revealing about you. How can one be able to talk with them? I think you have said the address where they can meet you. You can mind them.
Yep, you can just go to the University of Minnesota website, umn.edu, put our names in, you'll get our email, send us an email.
Hello, I'm Gideon from Kibirigo. I did my form for exam, and through the talk, they have inspired me so much, Dr. Beve. And the association, madam, I really want to know how much about University of Minnesota. I really like much of that. Do they have a scholarship, and if yes, which portal can I apply?
So yes, there are. It depends on the program. Not all programs are the same. Graduate school, many of you can get scholarships to be able to attend graduate school. Undergraduate is a little more difficult, but there are scholarships that you can apply for. And the nice thing too about coming to Minnesota, to the University of Minnesota, the Minnesota Kenyans are very supportive of students that come to Minnesota, so they actually give a nice community for students to come, and they also a good resource too for applying for scholarships and looking to look at the financing of that.
Oh, that's great. We would like to talk about climate change as we are waiting for some viewers to send their messages. We say that climate change is a global challenge. How can Kenya and university help to mitigate this challenge, which is coming globally, that we have climate change challenge here and there? So how are we going to mitigate this one?
So I think when we look at climate change, it's two things. Is that all of us have to look at how we can help to stop this change, and so that is looking at alternative energy sources. I know here in Kenya that there is interest in solar, and so how can we use solar for electricity instead of burning wood or other resources, wind energy? So how do we do that? So we all need to look at how we can prevent further change, and then in the meantime, we also have to look how we're going to adapt. I was talking to many of the faculty here this week, is that this is much drier right now in Kisii than it usually is. So the issue around water storage, how do you collect water? How do you use water when it is a drier season? So we really have to look at climate change two fronts, prevent any more and adapting to where we have now, because realistically, we're not going to go back, so we have to do this two-prong approach.
You can add something on climate change?
I can only add that I agree with Bev. This is not my field, but I agree.
That's good. You are okay. Let us continue leadership and training.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can ask.
I was thinking, because you're such a good interviewer and host, have you ever done like a partnership with an American radio or TV station? Maybe do a joint program?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's now that we are on to start.
Okay, good. It would be fun, because you do a really good job, and I think it'd be fun to see an American Kisii program.
That's great. I've seen Joshua Mokai is watching, saying that it's a good discussion. Thank you, Ndizi TV, for bringing heavy feasters. Yeah? He's saying that you are heavy feasters. Now there's a question that what do you suggest to Kenyans to improve their universities or their studies? What can you suggest? We start with you.
How to improve their universities? Well, I would say I'll make a pitch that the government give them more money. We always have to ask our government for more money so we can improve. I think it's really, we've witnessed just such dedication by the faculty and staff. Their goal really is to educate students to be positive contributions to the community, to your country, to the world. And so I think it's providing support for faculty and staff, and also, of course, to provide students more opportunities for jobs, perhaps. And what Bev does through Extension at home and here is to think about how students can form clubs or organizations, and they take on a project. And so that project helps the students work together. There's a team effort, there's communication, and then they work with the community to solve a problem, address an issue. And in that way, the community improves as the students get smarter and get experience.
Thank you. Are there any partnership of collaborations with the local government and at the county level? Is there any partnership?
So in Minnesota, we have a large and a very active partnership with our local government. So our local government and our counties help support Extension. So they provide funding, they provide office space, and they really provide what we need to be able to do Extension programming at the local county. Here in Kisii, we've been also talking to local government about Extension, about locations of Extension, hiring staff to be thinking about working on these issues. So I definitely think that, as Meredith said, the national government also gives money to Extension in Minnesota, but the local governments are very important, especially funding those local projects, because what is happening in one county may not be happening in the other county. And so making sure that that local government is involved is very important.
Thank you. There is many huge number of Kisiis in Minnesota. Do you work with any Kenyan professionals or organization in Minnesota?
Yes, so I mentioned at the start, and for those of you who joined us after we began, so with Minnesota is home to 10% of the Kenyan diaspora in the United States, and about 60% of those are Kisii, from the two counties actually, and they have a very, very, very well-organized organization, Mcquid, you could probably Google them, and they came to us to ask for the University of Minnesota to be involved with Kisii University, and so through Mcquid, they're all just, of course, wonderful people, model citizens. Many of their children have graduated from the University of Minnesota. And so we have learned a lot about Kenya from them. And we work together when Kenyans travel to Minnesota. They provide support. They do airport pickups. So that is one of our best community partnerships is with Mcquid.
Have you been in Nyamira?
Nyamira, yeah, we were there yesterday.
Yes, we were there yesterday.
How is now the person, how have you informed the local leadership with the program that you are initiating?
Yes, so we were very honored to be able to meet with the governor. So we did have a meeting with the governor to talk about the issues in the county. And then we were able to have a long discussion with his cabinet. So we met with education, agriculture, health,
finance,
about health. We talked a little bit about tourism and how you can increase tourism in the county. And University of Minnesota Extension has a tourism center, so we talked a little bit about that. But again, I think the governor and all of his cabinet were very interested in how we could really be thinking about the partnerships, but also increase partnerships with Kisii University.
Thank you. Is there something you can add?
No, it was really a wonderful meeting. We were there about 2 hours.
Yes.
And we were just incredibly impressed at the commitment and the enthusiasm that the governor's cabinet has to just improve conditions, life in general. But we did have some very good conversations about how the University of Minnesota could support efforts that are being done in Nyamira County.
I think somebody is saying we are privileged to host well-educated, beautiful women from abroad. We want a partnership here in Kisii. We look forward to working with them. Are they partnering with other universities, or is Kisii alone?
So in Kenya, Kisii is our main university that we are partnering with. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't connect with another university, but you know, as I mentioned, we do have partnerships all over the world, so we're a little careful not to say yes to everyone because we don't want to disappoint people. But as our relationship with Kisii University evolves, it may be entirely possible for us to work with other universities here.
When we are talking about these programs, you see that they are targeting youths, most of the youths, because the brackets, the age brackets youths. How are you going to ensure that these youths are going to benefit from these programs as you are going to initiate?
Yes, so we believe in, at Extension at the University of Minnesota, youth, and I think as Kenya believes too, is the future of this country. And so we have a program in Minnesota that we work directly with youth from the age 5 to age 19. And those programs are after-school programs. Some of them are with schools. And they're really about leadership development. The youth learn skills, but they really learn about leadership, what it means to work together, to work on a project. And so we've talked about that here in Kenya too, to be how can we help organize locally youth to work on projects. The program is called 4-H. There is a Kenyan 4-H foundation, and so that is one that we are working with to really develop these opportunities for youth, for them to think about what careers are, that think about them going to college, whether it's Kisii University or a technical trade college, and the youth really in the U.S. and in Kenya are the future of our country, and we really need to invest in them. So,
thank you. When we are talking about training in agriculture, you have such program, but in Kisii, we have Rand Challenge. How can Kenyans gain more from their land and improve food security?
That is an agriculture question. I'm going to hand that to my friend.
Thank you.
So again, these are some big challenges, and one of the ways too is to, when we are looking at some of these big issues, is that they're something that individuals can't do together. So I really encourage people to get together, to be thinking about the resources in the community. Sometimes we think more of it's just about us, but to get together with others in the community and to think about the resources. There's resources there that you may not know about. And so I think one of the reasons that I am such a proponent of leadership programs is that you can't always just wait for somebody else to solve the problem. You have to move forward and solve the problem. And the youth that I've met in Kenya very much are like that. They want it to be a better place for them. And so I just encourage them to do that.
I'm Rita Nyarongi from Kebirigo. How sure are we that the program and the partnership is going to last long? Because we have seen some people coming to initiate some projects, but at the end of the day, there has come.
That's a very fair question. I have seen it all through my career. In fact, sometimes it has happened within partnerships that we have had. The issue is that with partnerships, it's really about people to people. And so, for example, we've had partnerships in Asia that have lasted 4, 5, 6 years, and then the leadership in the university changes. And the new leader isn't as interested in maintaining those ties. Or we were operating a program on grant money, and the grant money goes away, and so the program can't be continued. But as I mentioned, with Kenya, with Kisii University, we came here in 2011, and now it's 2023, and we're very proud of that. And it really has to do with the people connection. And one of the reasons we came this time is because through the natural course of events, there are leadership changes at Kisii University, and we wanted to be sure to connect with the outgoing and the incoming, so they know how important the relationship is to us, so it can continue. But it's a really great question, because many times both sides have the best of intentions, and then things just happen, and 1 year goes by and 2 years go by, and then suddenly nobody remembers the partnership anymore. So it's about people being firmly committed and taking the steps to keep it alive.
There's somebody who sent also another message, was asking how you are going to deal with cartels. There are some cartels who can come in so that they deny you an opportunity to go on with the program. I saw that message was Peterson Momany is asking about cartels. You initiated programs, but there are some cartels who will purport to be you. How are you going to fight them?
Right. So, I think the issue is really around local control. If you are thinking about, marketing and as larger industries come in, I think it's really about, again, making sure that we retain local control. It's not always easy, especially if you are looking at trying to market internationally. And so I think it's really about thinking about what you're doing and making sure that the control still happens locally, even though you want to go to put it more nationally or internationally. But it's always a concern. It's always a concern of of how do you keep, the resources local as opposed to the resources going out of the region. And we have those issues in the U.S. too, large corporations being able to benefit, and the farmers that are producing it or the small businesses really are not able to reap the benefits of an international market. And so I think it's just, you have to be very watchful. And I think also government really has to take a part of that to make sure that these kind of controls are in place so that that doesn't happen.
As we are winding up, out of your program, is there any one success story that has emerged because of this program?
Yeah, I'll mention two. I would say, as Bev mentioned, 2012 is when we made the investment with Books for Africa to get a full container of books here, and a big portion of those were law books. And in doing that, we made connections between the law school deans and law school faculty. And faculty have traveled back and forth between our two law schools, and that's been a huge success. And then this extension program, the leadership program that Bev's been talking about, and the discussion of how to empower young people to benefit their communities. I would say those are the two. I mean, we're just incredibly proud of what we've done together in a number of areas, but I think those are two of the sort of most successful at the moment.
So I would like you to give hope to Kisii University and the entire Kenya that we are trusting that this project is going to be successful. So
I think that, as Meredith said, the success of programs, partnerships are with people. But our philosophy at the University of Minnesota and also an extension is that we build the capacity within our partners. So we are starting a new leadership program, and that program is with faculty at Kisii University for them to be able then to teach those programs through to others. And so we don't want to do the training in country. The university wants to be doing that. And so I think the more people that we are able to train in leadership programs, train with youth, then it just multiplies, because they are then doing the training, and the people they train talk about how important this program is. And when a program is benefiting other people and the communities, that's how programs stay. If it's just benefiting me or just benefiting another faculty member, those programs aren't sustainable. But if they're programs that the community wants, then that partnership will continue, because we're benefiting other people too.
I think there's something you add?
Yeah, I just want to again say how grateful we are, how lucky, how fortunate we are that Mcquid encouraged us to work with Kisii University. Many of us have spent a great deal of time here in this area, and we've learned so much, and we've benefited from your wonderful food and the really warm welcome. So we've gotten hope from you, actually. But the hope I share and that Bev shares and the whole team that we came with this trip is that we'll just continue to work together and make both Minnesota and Kenya better.
Thank you. Mayuya, keep up the good work. Kumbe. Somebody is telling me, Kumbe Breton, you can host an English speaking visitors in Nzake show and moderate them like that. We are used to you and Sarah in acquisition on Friday. English visitors not just from US but even local would chance now that the visa to be in partnership with Ndizi TV and Minnesota institutions. That's what Mojokoro is saying. Mojokoro is a Kisii word. Mama Regan tuned in. David Kimoli following from Minnesota. Good to see you, Meredith and Vivian. Thank you for great work you are doing. Continue creating bridges across the globe. Across the globe. That's David Kimoli. He's saying that thank you for coming and continue bridging the bridges. That's great. Thank you. There's another one which I'm looking for, but we can continue. Okay. So you said that the leadership of Kisii University is going to change because we heard that the Vice Chancellor Akama is going out. So are you sure that the incoming Vice Chancellor of the leadership is going to partner you to continue with the program?
So one way is once the new Vice Chancellor is named, is that we need to meet with him. And so we will be back and we'll meet with him. Also, the faculty that are involved in this program will also meet with him, the new administration, and just really talk about this program. And so, again, it's one of those things that you have to meet with people, you need to talk to people, and we have that commitment. And I know the Vice Chancellor, as he is outgoing and the next Vice Chancellor comes in, is very interested in maintaining this program.
Thank you. Majumuri gani wete turena bagani kurwa sinceri America ne kurwa University ya Minnesota anakrobate birena kwata kirgo patira ne University ya Kisii erigo kini birengo binge birengo asensemo ya mentorship in local universities, giving books, training as amangana agriculture leadership training, climate change, sourcing of markets, exchange programs of students and staff gati ya university ebigati ebibinde binge na message ya jari mtutu wa jirani na igunero rakintinda nyarora gaiga kera tumugoja na bongo nyerere kiagara ndresi meyuka yara charara keigo kon Dixon mbogo hagoteba no aramo 90 because of our time is running up. I would like you to give us the final word to the viewers.
Excellent. Well, first of all, thank you for tuning in. We were very excited and happy to be invited to be on the program. As we said at the beginning, it's a lovely studio, and you're very talented. And thank you for all your preparation. But we are firmly committed to maintaining ties to this area through Kisii University and also through the local governments. I know our Kenyan friends back in Minnesota are waiting for us to return and talk about the outcome of this visit. And we will be back. And we would love to have more Kisii visitors to Minnesota, more students applying to the University of Minnesota, and basically just to maintain this trust that we have in each other to make both Kenya and Minnesota better places.
Thank you. You are last word?
Again, thank you for allowing us to be here. It's been a pleasure. It's also been very much a pleasure to work with everybody here. And as Meredith said, that it's partnerships like this between individuals in both countries and institutions is how we could really make a difference. So as we talked about earlier, what is the hope? The hope is that you have to keep thinking about one project at a time. How do you make that impact? And I think that this program, though it's a small program, it's a significant program that can spread throughout the region. And having that commitment and being here, and as I said, that we'll come and meet the new Vice Chancellor, and we will ask the new Vice Chancellor to come to Minnesota. And so that's how partnerships are sustained. But with my experience with the Kenyan people is that they are people that really want to make sure that their region, their families, that things improve, and that that is also with U.S. We want to make sure we have strong families, strong communities, and this is what that program is all about. So it's not about the two universities, it's about the citizens of this region and making sure that we can bring resources to them to really solve the problem. So in that way, I have a lot of hope, and I have a lot of hope that it's going to continue. It's continued for going on 12 years, so let's make it 25, all right?
Thank you, we do appreciate. Jared, mtoto wa jirani, is from the United States. He's saying, thank you for visiting Kisii, and there is always light after the tunnel. Enjoy the good weather before coming to Minnesota.
That's true.
That's true.
You just continue enjoying the weather. How is the weather, actually?
It's very cold.
It's so good.
It's very, very cold.
Yes. This weekend will be below 0 at Fahrenheit, so not like here.
What about the diet, the food that we have been taking?
Oh,
fruits.
Oh, yes.
Delicious fruits, delicious bananas. The avocados are great. And of course, we've had ugali every day and loved it.
In Kisii, we have many border motorcycles. How was the experience when you see many motorcycles in Kisii?
All I can say is I'm glad I am not driving. Those motorcycles are a little scary, so...
Scary?
It's scary.
Do we have them in Minnesota?
We have them in Minnesota, but not as many. So there are more motorcycles here per person than I've ever seen in the U.S.
Yeah, that concept of having bikes to transport people, we don't have. So there aren't the sort of the boda things you can pay someone to take you somewhere. We have motorcycle riders and we have scooter riders, so we have many two-wheeled vehicles, but not like this.
This is unique.
That's great. What about the leadership now? This is out of the interview. How about the leadership? The leadership between Kenya and when we talk about the president and our president. Do we intend that we are going to cooperate them so that we can have the bigger partnership in our programs?
Yeah, that's interesting. I am not sure what that should be, but I think it should be. You know, I think that the countries have a lot of things in common, and that having a greater leadership between the two national governments would benefit this program immensely, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, people often refer to education as soft diplomacy because it's ways to get to know each other and understand each other without the threats of, market disputes or wars or, artillery. This is a way that people understand each other, and we hope that's the way we work through a university, but we hope the government is watching that. I think that the U.S. Embassy here in Kenya really is pleased that our two universities have partnered because they also believe in soft diplomacy. So, I mean, we'll go home and promote better relationships between the U.S. and Kenya, and I'm sure all of the Americans that have been here would do the same.
Thank you. Thank you. Mbe mono majumuri rekero kwa ba mona intero twarengena bagani korwa sense meli ya Minnesota. Twara jinjumu no akewe jesu mun wege songo twatemira ke twarena ke twikire na ndanki kan. I'm telling them that you are on to come back again so that we can have more conversation about the programs. Now when you come, we can have that the program has gone to higher stages. Yeah. We hope so.
Yep, we hope so too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Akia nigararia nerunya konkonya na haya koraiga agine nde twakoro murubire producer ito yarengi show te karaba batana John ke badi to kwa kirambia mano karakwa Ndizi TV na rubansu musino utambi ngo deni gente kene yansu anege gotoka me Ndizi TV obwansu womugusa. Now we can wave bye to them and say bye bye.
Thank you.